the proper thing, particularly because I am familiar with Sabonis, to put him at number 1 and have Mark be number 2.
Oh, you said Marc Gasol.
Yeah.
Oh, great one. Because I'm sitting here getting ready to follow.
Pal.
I'm getting ready to follow you up. Like, do you think that Mark could overpass him? But you actually, okay, great. Hey, that's a good one.
Yeah.
That's a great one, actually.
I just, again, I like guys that play defense, that have a full game. Mark got Defensive Player of the Year 2 years ago. He's a passer. He's a very intelligent basketball player.
Hits his free throws.
Hits a consistent 15 to 20 footer. And still is one of those few guys that will put his back to the paint, to the board, and just go to work. Back to the basket, shoulder game, get a couple of bumps, and go for it. And I like that.
Hey, sir, that was a great call. And actually, if we had a little bit more time, he will finish inside my top 5.
Yeah.
My number 2 is actually Dirk Nowitzki. Hey, I'm going to keep it short, keep it succinct. Number 7th all-time on the NBA scoring, all-time scoring list. In front of the aforementioned Moses. Dirk came in with no real... with no real mentor in the league. He won a championship, MVP. He's that guy, number 2 for me.
Yeah, and I guess that was something I meant to say too. Like, Dirk is probably, for this generation, I assume, the last guy to really win it by himself.
Right.
To not have this kumbaya mentality of come play with me because we're friends.
Right. 13-time All-Star, 2007 MVP, and then of course I believe he was the MVP in 2011 when they also won the title. So I don't have a drum roll lined up for us today, man, but what's your number 1, which you've already given us, but anything you can add to that?
It was that guy, Arvydas Sabonis. So I guess the big thing about Sabonis was that we as Americans saw almost nothing. We saw a shell of the player that he was. He was drafted 24th overall by the Blazers in 86 and did not come over until 94.
Right.
And so he had already had one of those Achilles injuries as well as several ankle, foot, and knee procedures. And he was just a shell of the superstar that he had been beforehand. So it was sad in that sense.
And this is something that I went in earlier today on my other podcast about Peyton Manning. Here's a guy, the courage. We don't applaud and commend, herald the courage that it takes for these national, these upper echelon elite players to go out here at less than 100% and face the guys that they face. And same thing with Peyton Manning facing, somebody like Houston from the Kansas City Chiefs, and they had the memes and the saying that they used the force to sack him last week when he went down. But Peyton Manning can compute on the spot that this pass play right here is less than a fraction of the season. Let me maintain my availability and my health and go down, because if I'm here for the end of the game and next week, that's what's critical. So I think we don't look at that, and I think for Arvydas, like you said, to come over here and want to play against the best and prove that he belongs, but to come over here in a diminished state and do as well as he did, I salute Arvydas. My number 1, and I probably cheated a little bit. You probably didn't take this into consideration. I'm running with Hakeem Olajuwon as my number 1 because even though he played in the States in college, he's still from Africa.
Yeah,
and we didn't fully flesh out the criteria before the discussion,
and we didn't. Full disclosure, we didn't talk about who we would pick beforehand. I stayed away from Hakeem, and I not because I don't respect him, just because I am very unfamiliar with his body of work. I personally did not see Hakeem.
Hey, the Hakeem that took down the Orlando Magic the job that Hakeem, he's changed his name once or twice, but a lot the Dream Shake. I mean, the job that him and Robert Horry did on the Orlando Magic that were led by Shaquille O'Neal, man. It was embarrassing, the stuff that Elijah Wan was doing. And Elijah Wan might not have been the shot blocker, the rebounder, and all of that, but the high percentage shots, the signature moves. Like, we have big men nowadays that don't even have signature moves.
Right.
But Elijah Wan was, he was a guy, you didn't take him out in the fourth quarter for the hack a Shaq type stuff. And now, like I said, today, it's a lot of big men who are hoping to pattern their game after him and try to pick up the Dream Shake and some of this stuff. But he was another one of those guys, kind of like Moses, that came along in between the runs of a dynasty, the Bulls. He was able to come in and get his couple of championships. And for me, he might be my favorite international player, Hakeem Olajuwon.
Yeah, and I figured there was a possibility that one of us was going to go Hakeem. So, yeah.
Hey, any last words, man? I hope our next show comes a lot more and we get us a schedule together. And I think we did a pretty good show, man, as far as kind of being less structured than what you and I would prefer. Yeah. But I enjoyed it all, man. Any last thoughts before we get out of here?
I had this Arvydas Sabonis quote in my head. I was trying to figure out how I could spin it to make it like work. I couldn't really. So no.
That's a great way to end it. Hey, who you taking tonight? Seattle versus Green Bay in Green Bay.
I'm taking the Seahawks
to go 1-1.
Yeah, I think they gotta redeem themselves. I don't think they respected the Rams. Even though the Rams have shown that they can put metal to metal with them. And I'm not sure I believe in this. So look, Aaron Rodgers can make anybody good. I just don't know. I hate James Jones though. I got killed my fantasy last week.
Oh, I feel like I'm missing, and I don't even want to extend the show. We're at about an hour and 37 minutes. But man, I really feel like I'm missing the bus completely on FanDuel, DraftKings. We got some guys on the One Take Podcast Nation family that do. They do fantasy, but then it's like the daily or weekly leagues, man.
Yeah, see, I
feel like I've missed the bus.
I don't do daily. I don't do any of the online stuff. Now, this year I will do NBA that way. I've realized I can make a lot of money doing that.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm not good enough at projecting what happens. So.
Okay. Like I said, man, I'm just sitting here like, my podcast life, my podcast game has kind of been my fantasy game, my fantasy sports. But now a guy told me in the break room earlier this week, man, that he won $400 this week off of FanDuel, and it's just like, even though that's a nice number, it's not enough for me to take that step. But
what I assume he didn't say is how much he put in to win $400.
Exactly, yeah. or how much he's put in his account over the last year and a half for that. Right. So of course we don't talk about our losses, but I just don't want to put myself. I really feel like electric cigarettes and FanDuel, the fantasy sports is kind of like the new economy of today. Like all of this brain power has moved from saving the world type stuff to now getting into opening e-cigarettes or selling the weed dispensaries, and now FanDuel. I'm just going to work for 20 weeks out of the season. I know that's kind of over the top to shut down the show, but it's just like, in a minute, because the poker thing was hot a few years ago, and now this has kind of supplanted poker as an easier way, and I just fear that a lot of guys could just be like, man, I only work 20 weeks out of the year.
Listen, that sounds like the new American dream to me. The daily stuff's tough, and we don't have time to get into it, but there's a reason I stay away from it. But I think fantasy overall is great for sports. I think it makes people pay attention. Look, I wouldn't need Red Zone if I didn't have 5 fantasy teams.
Right.
Like, I want to see, when you get in there, I want to know.
Right.
So,
all right, man. Later on, like I said, tonight we got the Sunday night game coming up. That will.
Who'd you take? Who you taking?
I'm gonna go with Green Bay.
Okay.
I just think Aaron Rodgers is a magician. He's a wizard back there, and I thought James Jones was a beast before he left. I thought he made a lot of difficult catches. While he might not have been the move the chain guy, I felt like he always made the difficult, the show, the highlight reel catches. And I'm an Eddie Lacy fan, and they're at home. A-Rod is pretty much untouchable at home. So
Seattle's defense doesn't seem to travel well.
Right. And me wanting to see some drama, I just want to see what happens tomorrow with Cam Chancellor and the Seahawks if they go 0-2.
Okay.
So, hey, man, it's been a great show in my opinion.
Good time.
Check us out. I'll try to put this up with maybe some timestamps on something so that people can get to different things. I hate to make an hour show, although I know they are easier to listen to, but the Hoops and Hops show is kind of a complicated show as far as what we try to do on the beer side and then delving into the world of the NBA. And obviously there's no ongoing season, although we are down to about, I believe it's like less than 50 days to the season kicks off.
It's about go time.
So, we'll try to make some changes as that nears. And like I say, I'll try to finish off every show with, you don't have to be great to start, but you have to start to be great. So y'all take it easy.
Proceed to roll my piece. Backwoods and the onion of green. Burn one, take a break in between.